What I'm seeing around the corner, I am seeing I'm seeing agents more around the corner. Like one of the neat things about Claude Code, I'm also seeing this in Dia, is agents as slashes. So like the idea of like the slash command slash and then name of your agent and then give it some arguments as being a way that we are interacting with agents much more. And I hadn't really understood that until I saw it like twice in a day, like seeing both Claude Code and Dia work the same way on this, and I'm the thing we're going to see more of them work that way too. The Dia calls them skills instead of calling them agents, but basically it's a prompt, right, with access to a certain set of tools, and then that's kind of the definition of an agent, right, with some memory space to be able to figure stuff out. And you combine that with, like you were alluding to, the MCP stuff that you were doing before. I think that the are you using MCPs? Like you're able to configure them through the web interface, like you're talking about using GitHub, whatever. Okay, those, like they call them integrations, right? And I think.
Sorry, mine's on the desktop at the moment, but with Claude, the big thing with Claude CLI is that you can apparently run them in the cloud, right? So it's not reliant on your actual.
Yes.
I think that's the next step, right?
Right. So the ones that run in the cloud are pretty cool, and then there are, of course, the ones that can run locally. But I think that the cloud-based MCPs are sort of emergent right now. I think building. I've now seen my first businesses that are built with that where the business is expressed as an MCP server as a first class consideration.
Wow.
Right. So like instead of I've got my SaaS now has MCP. It's like, no, my SaaS is MCP. Right. The way you interact with it is through MCP. And now instead of them making a big complicated SaaS or web interface or whatever it is they need, it's just
nothing. It's just MCP. Yeah, that's amazing.
And that actually shifts where the work is from the front end to the back end, which I think is really, really neat.
Yeah.
Your adoption of MCP is you're seeing a massive exponential curve upwards.
Yeah. And I think the even when MCP, like three months ago, MCP was actually really hard to work with. Right, because you'd have to go edit a JSON file, and only worked with like Cursor and Claude Code and maybe a couple of others, right? And like everything had to be done through, like, you had to have npx installed, right, and or UV in order to be able to get these things running. And like there were companies like Smithery that were out there to sort of help deploy the right things for you, but like the friction was huge, and yet there was big heat to make it happen, right? Like people who experienced it said, "Oh, this is really amazing when it works. We need to get this thing in here." And it was hard to make it happen, but high value when it was happening. And the thing that changed over the course of the last 90 days is they've become much easier to distribute, right? So now instead of having to go edit a JSON file all the time, Cursor has now introduced support for like one-click installation of MCP servers. So you can have an MCP server, you can expose a link, and then it will just go in. The support now for like streaming and what have you based MCP servers means that you can drop a URL into, say, your Claude, right, and say, I want to use this one, and then it'll immediately log you in using OAuth. Because it has that authentication that can be happening out of band integrated immediately, and you're in and you're done. So I'm seeing that adoption go up even more, right? Because because previously the utility was high, and now the friction is less, and now the wheel really turns, right? Because now an even bigger set of people will see more value. More businesses will therefore want to be able to tap into that market. That creates more MCP servers, which creates more demand, and I think that's just going to balloon out and significantly change the way that we look at user experience, because now user experience is no longer on a page or an app that you control, but inside the context of whatever the primary app is that you don't control, right? Like Cursor is one type of experience, Claude is another type of experience, but your MCP, your service, your company is existing inside them both. And that's going to be a very different kind of thing. And the folks who are working on MCP recognize this. And so we're seeing changes in the specification for MCP, which are, I think, moving towards like micro front end style things, where right now kind of MCP is RAG plus. It's sort of injecting text into that the chat agent then knows how to use. And then going forward, I think it's going to be, oh, and by the way, here's something that we want the user to actually experience or work with, right, as part of this process or as an output. And then getting those to be expressed in the context of that is going to be, I think, a key thing that comes next. But the business opportunities are enormous for it.